I've been playing around with decorative elements and even came across some little known techniques that I decided to give a try. Hi, I'm Lynn. Welcome to my channel. Join me on my journey as I sew, knit, and craft my way through my stash, exploring creative possibilities and stretching my imagination to fulfill my stash's potential and bring it to life. Before I start, I did want to give you an update on the technical aspect of things. You'll notice that I'm back to using my webcam. My camera, which is at least 11 years old, just does not have the capability of shooting really clear footage for YouTube. Also, my laptop is about 6 years old, and I think the editing software just might be too powerful for it. I'm not really computer savvy, so I'm researching if perhaps I can upgrade storage or something like that, as opposed to having to go out and buy a whole new laptop. But bottom line is, to make the videos I really want to make, I need to spend a couple grand. I mean, there's just no getting around with it. And the majority of that is going to be going towards camera and equipment. You know, getting a new camera, buying a better mic, getting a tripod, not a cheap tripod that I currently have, getting additional camera batteries and video cards and that sort of thing. Plus, I believe I'll also benefit from having an external hard drive to store my videos. So I'm shooting for summer, and in the meantime, I am going to test my phone out to see if that is an interim possibility while I research equipment options to see what I really want to buy and what's going to work best for what I want to do. So back to our regularly scheduled programming. So I have been binge watching sewing videos on YouTube that recreate vintage fashion, Victorian all the way to the 70s. Oh my God, when did my childhood become vintage? Oh, that is so depressing. Anyway, I do love the Victorian dresses, and someday I may make one, perhaps for Halloween or a dress-up occasion, but they really are a major investment both in time and money, and I do not see them becoming a part of my regular repertoire. I really am more a 60s, 70s aesthetic kind of gal. So, however, there are details in them that I love and inspire me to adapt them to a more modern silhouette, which gave me the idea for this video. And as I realize, as I get deeper into this journey of trying to clear out my stash, but it's also a journey into my own design aesthetic and what really interests me, I find that I'm way more interested in the textiles of a garment than the garment shape, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is I'm more drawn to the details and embellishments, such as embroidery, patchwork, trims, and other surface design techniques. And I think in order to let those elements shine, I prefer to keep the actual silhouette of the garment, so the shape of the garment, rather simple. And also, I've always wanted to create a design library for a long time, kind of put together a book that has my visual language in it, so to speak, you know, a sampler of techniques and ideas along with any notes about how to make them. So this video was an excuse to get one started. And what I did was I started going through all my books. I have several older needlepoint books from the 70s and the early 80s. So I started flipping through them to see what ideas that I can find. And I came across several that I'm going to share with you today. And the first one I came across was a scalloped hem. And I thought this was interesting and decided to give it a try. So what I did was I created a template. Hopefully you can see that. I just found a circular object. I happen to have a circle template from some creative memory thingy that I bought years ago, decades ago. Anyway, I found a size circle that I thought would be nice, and I just created a grid butting the circles up next to each other. And what I did for this was I cut out a piece of fabric, just a rectangular strip, and transferred those circles on there, giving myself a baseline here so that they all lined up, grid lines, that sort of thing. And my original thing, what I did was I sewed all the way up to here where the circles meet on this grid. And this is what I produced. And it's cute. I like it. Couple things about it though. First of all, I don't know if I'd want this on a skirt or a dress. I may do scallops, but I think I would want them shallower than what this currently is. I think this would be cute on household linens, such as maybe a valance for a window, or the edging of a tablecloth, or a bed skirt, or a pillow. Something like that I think would look really nice. Oops, I'm showing the back of it. I should show the front because you can see my marks. Maybe you can't see them, but I can. Anyway, so I did this and I sewed it very carefully along those lines. It wasn't hard. I used a smaller stitch length and just took my time, and then turned it inside clipped all the corners. You can see how much clipping I did. There was a lot of clipping. And turned it in right side out and gave it a really good pressing. Now, here's the thing about this particular pattern. Because I sewed so far up here to where the circles met on that diagram, I had a really hard time clipping those corners without them catching. You can see on this one, they're kind of catching. These other ones that are laying flat, I actually ended up clipping through the fabric. So that wasn't really good. So what I realized is that if I was going to do this again, and I've been looking for a valance idea for my windows. I have those kind of windows that just have the blinds that you open and close, and then they have that plastic header on top, and I didn't want to drill holes in my walls because I'm renting and I don't want to add any holes to it. But I was thinking that if I made some sort of valance that I could attach to the plastic header on there, that I could soften the look of the windows a little bit. I still want to have light come in, so I didn't want something big. So I thought something like this might be a cute start. But like I was saying about this, if you'll notice on my pattern, after I had done this sample, I went back in and drew these red lines to bring the curve down a bit so I wouldn't have such a sharp angle to cut over here, and so that when I do clip the curves and clip into that point right there, that it would lie flat and I wouldn't have to clip through the threads. So I thought that was interesting. Some ideas there, obviously. So it's an option. This also could be cute for a little girl's dress. Obviously, you might want to make your scallops a little bit shorter. Well, maybe not. It would be cute, like a little girl's dress. But I think the idea, as far as clothing goes, I don't know that I would use it. I would make these scallops shallower, and maybe. I think it would be better for household items. So the next thing I decided to explore was ruffles. I love ruffles, by the way. So my first one that I made was this. And I actually, all of these samples are made out of muslin. Just little bits and pieces that I have left over in my stash that I just saved for such a purpose. But anyway, on this one, this ruffle, and if I was going to do this on a garment, I would cut it on the bias so it wouldn't fray, because I wouldn't want to have to sew down edges on it. But anyway, this I made and just gathered, and then I had some tulle sitting in my stash, so I added that to the back just for fun to see what it would look like. And I just used a basting stitch, gathered it down the middle, and came up with this. Now, I think this is cute. Again, if I was going to do something like this on a dress, I would make it thinner and I would cut it on the bias. I think it might make a cute edging. Or you could do a little design on the skirt of a dress or just on the skirt. Also, as I was going through these and looking, I thought, well, wouldn't something like that be cute for a little girl's room, you know, as a valance or a bed skirt or something like that. I thought that would be really cute. So another thing that I like about doing these samples is, oh, I got hair in my face. I got like, when I part my hair, there's just one side of my part that always wants to go to the other side. I don't know what it is. Anyway, what I love about making these samples and having this sort of design library is that you can mix and match them. You can play around with them to see how different elements would go together, like this. You know, I think that would just be so sweet as the balance for, oh, yay, somebody decided to ride their motorcycle really fast. I don't know why people go by our street really fast, because it's not a long stretch of road. So anyway. So I have this ruffle. And then I decided, what if I did it as just a one-sided ruffle? So then I did this where I used tulle again because I had it there, and I was like, well, let's see what this looks like. So I took my muslin and gathered it up with some tulle in back, and then made a little header with it because it was acting ornery without it. But you can see, and that would be a cute little skirt. Oh, look at there, there's a little Barbie skirt right there. How cute is it? Actually, that'd probably be a whole Barbie dress right there. But it gives you options, and I do like that. I do like having like a little ruffle on the bottom. And again, if we're going to look at our little girl's room, because I seem to be somehow focused on a little girl's room, even though I don't have any little girls in my life. But again, wouldn't that be cute? It does remind me of a tablecloth, but it'd be cute as a bed skirt or something like that in a little girl's room, I think. But yeah, there's the ruffles. And then another form of ruffling is ruching. And basically what ruching is you're taking your fabric and you're gathering it on both ends to create something like this. And I made this really big. I think if I was going to add this into a garment, I would not make it quite so big. I think this would be a nice detailing. I can see this on a sleeve, perhaps. I have been watching too many of these sewing videos of Victorian clothes because I'm sitting here thinking of like a sleeve and then having it blossom out over here and like a Lego mutton kind of thing happening. Or it could be interesting in a top. I don't know. You can play around with it. Like I said, I made this wider than I would probably make if I had done it on an actual garment. And you can see my gathering on the back. And also your eyes are not deceiving you. Those are two different colors of fabric in there. They just happen to be the same size strips, so I used them together. they're both muslin. One is just a bleached muslin and one is unbleached muslin. But that is ruching, and I thought that was really interesting. It could be used in a lot of different ways. And again, you know, I don't know. Could we add it to our scalloped edge? I suppose we could. Anything's possible. But I liked the ruching detail. And now for, oh shoot, I forgot to I was going to make a template for this to show you. Anyway, so the next thing I made that's similar to ruffles are flounces. And what flounces are they're made from a circular piece of fabric. So what you'll do is, I'll use this since I have this already, but you'll draw out your circle. Obviously you'll make it, probably make it a bigger circle than this. For my flounce, what I did was I just found a big pasta bowl and traced around that on the fabric. But you're going to trace around your circle on the fabric, and then you're going to measure in how wide you want your flounce to be. And on mine, I made it 3 inches wide. So what you'll do is you'll take a ruler and you'll measure in 3 inches around here, and then you'll cut out the middle portion so that you have this circular piece. What you're doing is basically making like a donut in fabric. That's the best way to describe how the shape is going to look. And then this is what your flounce is going to look like. So it gives you kind of a flirty little edge without being too precious, like a gather might be, like some of these gathers might be. It just gives you a little bit of flounce. And remember, this is also done in muslin, so it doesn't have the drape that you might get if you used a softer fabric like a silk. I mean, the drape would just be fantastic. And then I also wanted to see what would happen if I gathered my flounce, which I did on the end here, and it has a nice little gather. I don't know if these gathers are any more preferable to these gathers. It's hard to say. I do like them gathered, but I also like them flounce. And this is just a smaller flounce. What I did was when I cut out my circle, my flounce for this piece, I still had a circle that was about that big around, so I decided to make another flounce from it, and this is a smaller little flounce. And you can see I just think it's sweet. And this could be used in the hem of a skirt to kind of give it, you know, that flirty little extra vibe, or you could even use this around the cuff of a sleeve, which would be pretty too. So those are flounces. And then I move next into tucks and pleats. And this was an interesting thing. One of the things that I thought that I wanted to do, or was inspired by the Victorian sewing videos that I watched, was I would like to make a petticoat. Not a long petticoat, because I don't wear long skirts, but I was thinking of a kind of slip-like petticoat that I could put under my shorter skirts. Of course, there would need to be skirts that have more volume to them. I mean, you wouldn't wear it under a pencil skirt, but I don't own any pencil skirts because I don't like wearing pencil skirts, so that wouldn't even be an option for me. But if you have a gourd skirt or a circle skirt, having a petticoat to wear under that would kind of give you more options to wear, you know. So I was thinking that I might make a white or cream colored, or both, or maybe even a black one too, petticoat that I could put under a skirt to make things, kind of mix things up and give it a different look. And one of the things that petticoats have a lot of are tucks. So I played around with tucks. I don't have any pin tucks on here, but I do have bigger tucks. And to figure out how I was going to do this, I started out with some graph paper and just made some folds so I could see where my tucks would end up and how I would need to mark my fabric. And I wanted 1/4 inch tucks, so I tried them in a variety of different ways. I tried doing them when I made them. So if you can see here, all I did was I folded my fabric and I sewed it 1/4 inch. And then I folded it again and sewed another 1/4 inch until I got all these tucks. And from the back, it just looks like that. But these tucks are all, my lines, my fold lines were all 3/4 inch apart. And then when they were all sewed up, I got this line of tucks. And then if you'll notice over here, I decided to play around with that, and I was like, well, what if we give these tucks some dimension and go up and down like that? And you can see all my marks on here. I didn't do anything to try to hide them. On a garment, I would want to use either invisible, I would want to use an erasable marker, either one that fades away or washes out with water or that sort of stuff. But I did my tucks like this, and I thought that was quite an interesting little textured effect that could be used somewhere. I don't know where. It could be used on the hem. It can be used on my petticoat, however I wanted to do it. And then I decided to try making my lines 1 inch apart for my tucks. The tucks themselves would still be 1/4 inch, but I would make the lines 1 inch apart, and it gave me these, which I actually, for my petticoat, I was going to say pettiskirt, for my petticoat, I think I would want to have them a little further apart like this. I like that part, and I think that looks good. But not only can you use these on the hem of a skirt or a dress, they can also be used on a blouse, going down like that. And they have all sorts of different uses for them. So I thought those were all very interesting. And in my thing here, I can even look and see how I like it with my scallops. I mean, that's the fun of having these to play around with, is that you can just mix and match them. It's so fun. Along the same lines of tucks are pleats. And these are knife pleats that I did. I don't know if you can kind of see that they kind of accordion out. And they're made similar to tucks, except you don't sew them down. I didn't sew these down, or sew them together. They're all loose. So that if you did this, if you made a pleated skirt, your skirt would still have a lot of volume. It'd be one way to do a rectangular skirt and still get volume out of it without having to make any darts, because your pleats would bring in your fabric to your waistline. So I thought that was neat. And then a little bit more, a less precious look with our scallops would be like that. So again, it kind of gives me bed skirt vibes. I can't have a bed skirt on my bed because I have drawers underneath. So I guess I could have a bed skirt, but I like to have access to the drawers. Anyway, I thought the pleats are a fun little detail along the lines of tucks. And I'm going to save the best, my favorite at least, for last. And as I was looking through these books, there's a lot of needle lace which I don't think people do much anymore. And one of the things that I came across was called faggoting. Yes, that's exactly what it's called. Faggoting, faggoting, faggots. That, I swear to God, that's what it's called. Anyway, what that is it's a way to join two ends. And I thought this would be really neat at a hem of you could do it on a sleeve, or you could do it joining to a sleeve to the armhole. You could do it joining a yoke to the body of a on a blouse. You could use it as a hem, and this is what it is. So this portion right here is the faggoting, or the needlework lace. And I wanted to play around with how it would look if I added different laces or that sort of thing. And I really love this one. I think it just looks precious, and I see a skirt idea already with this. Now, these laces are just really cheap seam binding that I happen to have in my stash. If I was going to do this on a garment, I would probably go out and find some better quality lace. And I also used rickrack as the hem down here. And then these faggoting stitches, they weren't difficult to do. And I'm going to do a tutorial on them in my blog so that you can see step by step how they are done, because my books have mostly pictures. They don't have a huge description. And the one that does have descriptions for it, I wasn't going to start out doing this style, which I think is called the knotted. I think it's called knotted, but I wasn't going to do, that wasn't my first choice. The one I wanted to do, I think, was called an Italian, and trying to make sense of the pictures and the wording was really tough. I'm going to have to sit down and use some bigger, probably get some yarn and do it with actual yarn, so like a thicker cotton yarn, maybe some crochet cotton or something, to try to figure out exactly what they are wanting to do. So this was my second choice because I just could not figure that out. And I didn't have the patience to figure it out at the time. So I am going to do a whole blog post on these different stitches. I'm going to really sit down and work with them and try to figure out how they all go so that I can do that. And it's easy once you figured it out. It took me 3 or 4 times I had to cut the thread out of here and start over, because I just making sense of the pictures and how they did it was not gelling in my head. And finally I got it, and then was able to make my way through it. And I was so incredibly pleased with these results. I just think it is smashing. And I can see, maybe even this will be for my petticoat, but if I do a petticoat, I'm going to do it all in a solid color. So I'll either do it all white or all cream or all black. But how fantastic would that look with maybe some pin tucks in there, or just regular tucks, not pin tucks, and cutting out the lace so that you can see through it, maybe even doing some decorative machine stitches across the side here. I just think it's just so pretty and so sweet and special that I want to try all the stitches. And I see skirts as a particularly good way to incorporate a lot of these details. They make a really good framework for putting all of these decorative elements into place. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you for joining me, and I'd love to hear your comments. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and help spread the word. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you want to follow me on my journey, hit subscribe and the bell to receive notifications when a new video is up. I have been posting weekly, and you can also follow along on my blog. Links are down below. Happy destashing, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.